Welcome back everyone to Data Science for Everyone. Today we're going to be talking about functions in JavaScript. Let's get started. So first off, a function is a self-contained block of code that is made to perform a certain task. Now we've already used these built-in functions such as alert or the console log throughout this course. And we've also wanted to perform certain tasks for an application that we may develop. So when you create up a function, then you can call a function to run the associated code. Now, packaging code into functions is in this way makes your programming more effective, and you don't have to repeat code every time you want to use it. So let's go on and create up a new file really quickly. And let's go on and do functions.html. And let's go on and create up our HTML. We'll create up a body, and we'll create up our script. So a function in here has the basic idea here is you have a function, you have a name, and then you put in parameters, and then you put in your code. Now, this here, this is called a function declaration. So let's call this one greeting, okay? And it'll take in a parameter for name. So here we can console log out here, hello, name. Okay, and so this is very nice for us to be able to create up just a nice greeting. We can put in the name. So if we have in here the function call, here it would be greeting, and we can say Bob. So whenever we go on and run this, okay, we can go on and we'll just open up Safari here, we'll close the loops, let's inspect, let's check the console here, hello Bob. Okay, so now we can change this again. If we went back, we can change this to James. Here we can refresh. Again, hello James. Good. So now we are able to correctly create up a function, and we are able to give it a parameter. Now, another thing that we would always like to be able to talk about, okay, is what else would we be able to utilize this for, okay? So we can create up another function in here. And let's call this add, okay? So we'll do function add here, and this will take in two parameters, A and B. Oh, no. And then it would do something like return A plus B. Now this is a little bit different here, okay, than what we've used before. Now if we noticed in other, when we were using this greeting function, it would actually create up, it had this console log, but it also had an undefined in there. Now, when we want to have these functions, we would have a return value. Notice here, that's what this key function, this keyword is in here. Now, a return value is a value that a function produces for use elsewhere in our code. Now, in many cases, we want a function to take in some inputs, such as A and B here. We want it to do some process, so here, addition. And then we want to process those inputs in some way and have an output as a result, and that is the return statement. That would be the output. Now, we can take this output as what's called the return value. So let's use this add function, and let's actually give it an example here. We can do add 2 and 3. Okay, and let's go on and actually, you know what, let me open this up, functions, and let me open it up with Google Chrome this time, just so we can have a couple other views of this. So let's inspect. Let's do the console. Oh, and it says here there's one issue in our code. Let me refresh this. All right, so there's one issue somewhere. So let's go take a look and see what the issue may have been. All right, it does not look like we have any particular issues here. Maybe it's because it's running in this window here. Let's take a look. Oh, and notice here, it doesn't actually have anything, right? So it didn't return any values for us. Now, if, okay, so and let's talk about this in a couple different ways. So first off, we had this return value, right? Now, we ran this in our code from our file, right? Now, it didn't go anywhere. So what would happen, though, if I ran this inside of Google Chrome? So let's go on and create up. So is there an add function in here? Let's check. 2, 4. Oh, notice. Now it actually has this output of 6, right? Now, why did it not show up for us when we did this inside of our function, okay? Well, we didn't save it anywhere. So let's put this into, let's do let number is equal to 23. Now, what if I just do number? Again, this is just a test for you guys to see what's going to happen. If we go back over and I refresh this, notice nothing is going to pop out. Why? Well, because we didn't call it anywhere to actually visualize it. So we can do interactive code inside the console window. Okay. So again, I can do add 2, 6, 3 here, and we get 1 or 5. Okay, great. Now, again, this isn't saved anywhere. This is just interactive. It's in a console. If we want to actually print this number out, we need to tell it to do something. So we need to do our log number. All right, and now outside of this, we will actually get our data. So go here, let me refresh. Oh, and now 5 pops out. Great. And again, because it knows that it's from functions and it's from even line 14. All right, so that works perfectly well, and it adds those two numbers together. So if we wanted to do something a little bit more expressive with this, okay, so let's do something like let num is equal to add 200 by 200. Notice that actually comes up with this undefined, okay? So again, if we want to be able to access this in any specific way, again, we've declared this variable here, num, okay? And we've initialized the return value from add. So, but again, it shows up as undefined, even though add has a return value. So if we declare a variable, always prints out undefined. It's always going to. Now, then when we use their function's return key, okay, so if I do something like this, I added 2 numbers and the result was, okay, and we'll do here num. Oh, and then it was caught up by a weird syntax here because I put this in double the backticks here. So let's go clean this up. There we go. All right, added 2 numbers and the result was 400. Great. So again, now we are able to actually access this. We grab the number, and notice here it doesn't have this undefined. Here, instead of calling add separately, we actually grabbed up this number function. Now we can also do this. We can add in these functions here, and we want this, but let's change this to add 3 and 6. Notice we can actually put the function that we created directly inside of here to run it. Now again, instead of calling the add function separately and storing the result in a variable, we can call that function from within our template literal, and it's going to return its inserted directly into the resulting string, producing the same message as what we would have before if we had maybe 200 and 200 in there. Now, it's often more readable to store the number first and then go on and have its output. Okay, but again, both approaches are equally useful, and it just depends on what you would like to use. Now, another fun thing that we have here, though, is we have parameter types. Okay, so what would happen here if, let's say, we put in something different, okay? Because again, remember, the data type functions and these parameters in JavaScript are not going to be fixed. This is because JavaScript is a dynamically typed programming language, and in which types of variables and parameters can change while the program is running, as opposed to statically typed languages, in which the types of variables or parameters are determined before the program is run. So again, to illustrate this, let's do add and do hello, sir. Okay. Oh, and notice here, now we have hello, sir, all in one here. We don't have any gaps in there, so let's go in and put in a space. Oh, hello, sir. Notice we passed the function two strings as arguments. So the plus operator inside the function is interpreted to mean a string concatenation rather than a numerical addition. Now the function therefore combines the two strings and returns the result in this instance. So by extension then, we can do some very interesting things here. We can do add true, false. Notice it'll get us 1 because why? True is equivalent to 1, false is equivalent to 0. Now we can also do something by mixing numbers together. So we can do 3 here and 4 here. Okay, and notice 4 is a string. What is the output here? Well, it is the string 34. All right. So again, these rules about type coercion, we can talk about maybe a little bit more in depth later on, but they come into play in a lot of different places. Now, when we try to add two Booleans, again, as we've had here, all right, it's going to convert the Booleans to numbers, and then it's going to be producing that number 1. Now, when we try to add a number and a string together, though, JavaScript is going to convert both operands to strings and then concat them together, producing, again, in this instance, 34. So dynamic typing brings in a lot of flexibility in JavaScript, but if you are not careful, it is going to also open you up to way more confusing bugs. And it's essentially to have a good idea of the types you're going to be using and make sure not to be passing in the string to a function that expects a number. So these are all kind of some side effects in which a function is going to be doing something that makes a difference outside the function. So apart from returning some value. So a side effect can also be intended or unintended. Now, and this includes updating the value of a variable that declared outside the function, modifying some array or an object declaration outside the function, or outputting a string to the console. Some functions, like this add function that we have here, have no side effects and are called only for their return values. Other functions, okay, so such as our greeting function, have no return value and are called only on their side effects. So that would be the console log here. So it's also possible to write functions that have return values and have side effects. So let's take a look at an example of that. So let's say let calls equals 0. Okay, now we have a function add a and b. Now, let's do this. Again, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to have this calls, and so it's going to keep a tally of how many times we've called this function. So we have calls plus plus. So again, notice this is this calls is outside of the function, okay? So now we'll do something like console log, and we'll do B was, oh, you know what, we'll just do B equals B, and C equal, you know what, let's do, yeah, C equals C. Okay, and then let's also give it a return value here, and we'll say return A plus B. Okay. Oh, and actually here, this needs to be A and A. All right, cool. So we've saved up a function, and let's actually go on and have it, let's actually try doing this. So we can add, let's do let num is equal to add 4.4 and add 6.6. Okay, and let's go on and add it. And now notice here, what happens when we run this, it gives us this console log, which is what we're expecting here. Now we also, though, want to do something like calls. And notice it says calls is equal to 1. So then we can also grab num, and notice it is 11. Okay, good. So now what happens if we go through and we do this again? Let's change this to 0.9. We run it. All right, B is 6.9, A is 4.4. Calls now is 2 because it updated, and num now is 11.3. So this function has side effects of logging 2 values, all right, to the console before adding them together. It also has a side effect of updating the calls variable, changing its value from 0 to 1, and then additionally from 1 to 2. Now, on top of that, the function has the non-side effect result of returning the sum of its arguments, which we stored in the sum, or in the num variable. Now, if we want to keep adding and using this add function over and over again, this calls function will, this calls variable will constantly update and go up and up and up and up and up. So this is a great way to be able to have certain mechanisms to restrict how often a program is going to be allowed to call some function. And so, for example, maybe it requires a lot of processing power. Well, a technique, this is also a technique called rate limiting. You can achieve this by periodically resetting the counter, though, perhaps every minute or so, and then skipping the function call if the counter goes over some threshold. So again, this type of thing does have a very good use case. Now, that's all the time we have today. We'll continue on with function calls in the next video. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, comment, subscribe, and hit that like button, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.